This is a stitch and fold B2000. Uses a coil of wire. You get about 65,000 stitches off of this spool because this is a 6.5 pound spool. When you're going to load it on the machine, all you do is you pull this pin, and you want to take this brake right here, move it out of the way so that the spool can slip on. Then you can let go of the brake, and you put your clip back on. You want to have the wire de-spooling in a direction such as this, so it's coming off the spool like that. Very important that you string the wire through this gap here and then back through this hole here. The whole purpose of this spring here is so that when it draws wire, it releases the brake and allows the spool to turn, and then when you're done drawing wire, it applies the brake back here and stops the spool from turning any further than it should. Once you get it to this point, you probably got a lot of kinks in the wire like I do, so I always bend it back right there, and I go get my cutters. Because when I want to feed the easy thread stitching head, I want to start with a nice straight piece of wire. So I'm going to pull this off, cut it, and I'm going to physically take it with my hand and just make it a little bit straighter, try and get some of that curve out of it so I got a fairly straight piece of wire. You notice on the easy thread head, there's this knob at the top. And what it does, it goes from on into off. Now, when you have it in the on position, that's for normal running conditions. The off position is for stringing positions. The only thing this is doing is it's an eccentric on a roller. And we are trying to take, when this is in the on position, it's applying pressure to this to take the bundle curve out of the wire. There's a natural curve of this wire to want to have a curve back into the head. What we're trying to do is get the wire to straighten out a little bit. That's all this eccentric does. Now, for feeding purposes, we put it in off, and that takes the roller off, and it just prevents it from fighting it while you're trying to feed the wire down in here. So you feed the wire through this plastic on top, past the eccentric roller, and you can't see it from this camera angle, but there's a double flanged roller. You want to get the wire between the double flanged roller. And then you just help it. This here is a check pawl. This allows the wire to push in, but it can't back out. I'm pulling on it. It won't come out unless I release it. Now I can pull it out. So I'm going to keep feeding it past the check pawl. Pretty soon you'll see the wire come out down here as it has. Now the only thing you have to do, and you can do it with your fingers or you can do it with the cutters, is you need to just get this last little bit down into the funnel. And you don't want to feed it a large length into the funnel. All you need is roughly about 1/8 of an inch. So you notice I take my cutters, I'm going to grab the wire, I'm going to feed it 1/8 of an inch into that hole. Now all I need to do is return my swivel operating spring, or rotator operating spring, and now I'm ready for my first cycle. And this is similar to the cassette head in that you have to cycle it once to load it once, and now that wire draw will not necessarily be the proper length depending on how far I fed it in. So you cycle that stitch out, and then you cycle it one more time. So your third cycle gives you the proper stitch with the proper wire draw. And that's all there is to stringing an easy thread stitching head. Now you want to turn this back to on for operation purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and string up the other side. Again, pull this back, slip the spool on, put your clip back in place, grab your wire, go through the large hole, back through the skinny hole. Bring it out. Cut yourself a length. Take the bundle curve out of it, straighten the wire out. Turn this to the off position. Feed it down through. Relieve the pressure from your check pawl so that it can go through. As you can see, the wire's coming out, and actually in this case I was able to push it right into the hole. I didn't even have to grab it with my needle nose. It had the proper bend. It went right into the funnel at the bottom. The head is threaded. Now all I need to do is turn this back to on, and we're ready to cycle it. Now in order to check my stitching heads, you can either send 3 books through, or what I do to check stitching heads I turn off my back jog. There's a switch over here on this side. And all I do is I push it into the machine hanging onto the book, and I let it stitch. My first stitch is nothing because it's loading the rotator. My second stitch means nothing because it could be an improperly drawn. Now my third stitch, this is my third stitch, will be the correct stitch. Looks like my second stitch wasn't too bad either. Very simple setup for paper sizes. In this case we'll set up 11/17. There are two adjustments you have to make. One is your stitch position and fold position, which is done with a hand crank down on the side here. And that adjusts, when you adjust for your stitch position in the middle, the fold gate moves with it automatically, and so it's going to fold it to your stitch. But I always recommend starting with your side guides. Being that I have 11/17, I need to set my side guides for 11. You do not set the side guides to the size of the paper, because the side guides in their home position are in a non-jog position, so they're away from the paper. So you have to rely on your scales. There's a scale here, and there's a scale at the top of the machine. You can set it from either position, but I recommend using your thumb screw here and moving the guide from the center. What I'm going to do is read on the outside of the scale, putting it on 11 because that's the size of my paper. I'm going to turn my screw and lock it down. I do the same on this side. I move my scale into, or my side guide into position, reading off the outside, lining it up with 11, and lock it down. That's the formal adjustment for that. Then there's also, you want to check that setting, and it's very easy to do. Is you place your hand on this side guide and you push over. That basically shows you what your side jog is going to do under power. And as you can see right now, I'm buckling my paper a little bit more than I'd like to. You want it to move the paper into position, but you don't want to buckle it. So I'm going to loosen my thumb screw and just back this off a little bit and bring it back so that I'm not buckling it quite so much. I'm going to do it one more time. There, now you see I'm not buckling the paper much at all. I do want it to come up tight against it, because that's how you're going to get a nice register. And that's all I do for setting the side guides. Now for setting length, there's a hand crank underneath this side of the machine. You'll notice when I move the hand crank, that moves these. This is my back jog. When the back jog is in its operating mode and it comes to full position, it comes to a stop. So all I need to do is put my finger here and then turn till my back jog lines up and just kisses or touches the edge of the paper. Now that's where my side jog is going to come to every time. We also have a scale which you can set it to, but again, this is your fine-tuning adjustment to get it to the proper paper size. So I just get it to touch it, and my paper is set. I can leave the book in there, close the covers. I'll turn on my back jog now because I had it off when I was checking my stitcher heads. All I do is turn it on, and we get the book out. Stitches. Looks like I need to, now all I need to do is adjust my book. It looks like I need to fold a little bit more in the middle. So all I'm going to do is adjust my stops accordingly so that it folds it more in the middle of the book. I'll throw another book in. I just need to, I'm getting closer, I just need to make one more adjustment, and that should be set. There's my stitch, and my fold is right in the middle. Now we're ready to put it up to the collator. We do, however, interface with the Borg BT towers and BST towers, and the Duplo DC-1020, the Watkis Vario tabletop tower, The only thing I have to look for now is that my alignment with the collator is good. Once I have that set, we have arrows in our kit that you put on there to align it so that when you do move them apart, you can set it. And I'm just going to check.
What is the speed in automatic mode on this?
It's 23, our bookmaker runs at a speed of 2,300 booklets an hour. We're ready to run books. I just hit the start. About top speed for 1117. I'd say this is about 2,300 books an hour, right?
What's the life expectancy on the product?
Sorry?
What is the life expectancy?
Depending on, the lubrication of the head. There really, when I take the sides off of this, you see all sealed bearings and chains. I mean, it can run forever. I mean, in that sense, probably books. The empty pocket ran out, so it stopped running. And if you look, stitches on the spine. And that was, normally I can do almost a one book setup. It was unusual that I even had to send the
Throw
3 things.
25 pages up around?
Sure.